Okay, so the agenda, just to give you a bit of an insight into what we'll be sharing with you today. So it'll be a brief introduction. There'll be discussion around the enhanced highway maintenance options. Also, we're going to give you some information around the development of the highways pilot. So again, more details on that. An insight into the routine and specialist services that we can actually provide for parish councils moving forward. A bit of information about the parish launch and how that will work, and then we'll end with volunteer training. What I propose to do, with everybody's agreement, I'll avoid being distracted by the chat as we go through the presentation, and if there's any questions, if you would be kind enough to leave them to after the presentation, then we can pick them up at the end. So there'll be plenty of time for questions, so please keep them stored. The presentation isn't long. So just bear with us while we work our way through that. I thought it'd be helpful just to give some of the backstory as to why and how we've arrived at this point. So you will all know by now that Somerset County is now a single unitary council. That was approved back in July 2020. One of the key offerings in the modern Somerset business case was around the creation of local community networks, and they were created to promote active community decision making and inspire local place shaping. Now that's an important element of why we've created this enhanced maintenance proposal, because it really does fulfil some of the original objectives from the local community network initiative.
Hello.
More recently, if you could put all mics on silent, that would be helpful.
Thanks, Andrew. I was just going to jump in and say somebody it sounds like they're on a phone call. If they could put their mic on silent, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. So local community networks are established now, and I'm really pleased to say one of the derivatives of the local community networks is the setting up of what we've described as highway and traffic working groups. So we've got 18 LCNs. I think we've got something close to 18 working groups. I've done my best to attend the first inaugural working group for each of the LCN areas, and from my perspective, it's been an absolutely fantastic startup. The purpose of the working group is really to get under the skin of some of the detail that's associated with highway service delivery, but also understand some of the priorities that local communities have. So it's about explaining what we can, what we can't do, sharing programs of work, and so on. From my perspective, they're really critical to, I would describe it, humanise the service that we provide. We often communicate, especially these days, in digital means. For me, the working groups are an excellent way of actually spending time with officers, understanding the detail around highway and traffic issues. Part of the discussion at the working groups is about promoting self-help and also localised highway maintenance, which is exactly the reason why we're here today. So you can see right from the One Somerset business case, there's a thread that works its way down through to the delivery of the enhanced highway maintenance pilot. Cast your mind back to February of this year. The Service Director for Infrastructure and Transport wrote to all parish clerks, setting out a number of proposals around how highway services could be delivered in various different models moving forward. By way of reminder, these models are the provision of a highway steward. I won't talk about that today, but I do know that there's some interest still in that programme of work. If you want to have a reminder about it, we can pick it up in the questions. Parish councils can also self-deliver. I know that we've got a number of parish councils in Somerset that continue to employ their own lensmen or their own volunteer network. That's absolutely fine. If that works for you, please continue to do that. Parish councils might also want to commission their own contractors, so they might have local contractors that can do work, and again, we can give you the tools and the support to continue doing that. And that very much fits with some of the information that we're going to provide in a handbook around working on the highway and what insurances to have and so on. But Sarah will come on to that shortly. The volunteer network with highway safety awareness training, I'm not going to steal Sarah's thunder here. She will cover that in more detail when we get to that point later in the agenda. And the enhanced highway maintenance pilot. So you might remember this was originally referred to as the parish price list. So I'll explain why it's changed slightly in just a second, but it is now going to be measured as part of a day rate. And again, this is why I'm pleased that Alan has been able to attend today, because he can give you an insight into some of the challenges the contractor has in delivering that. Okay, so that's just a very brief summary of some of the initiatives that was contained within that letter dated February of this year. Again, if you haven't got a copy, we can put a copy in the chat box, and that will refresh your memories. So let's move forward. So I've talked about the LCNs, I've talked about highways working groups, and the working groups have consistently expressed a desire and interest in delivering works themselves. And again, we would absolutely do our best to enable that. Got no problems with that at all. One of the themes for today is about the enhanced highway maintenance pilot. We've done a little bit of internal development work on that. And I think it was about April, May, we did an internal discovery day with the contracting staff, with traffic staff, and also colleagues from our ICT team. What we were doing was just really exploring how we could deliver enhanced highway maintenance, working in collaboration with parish councils. And I think it was evident in the early days, my personal thinking was it would be a digital solution. I think it was evident as part of that Discovery Day discussion that there was going to be a number of operational and also ICT challenges in delivering a technical solution in such a short time frame. Some of the issues that we explored was the development and redesign of the technical and financial business processes, which proved to be quite a challenge. How we'd communicate with parish councils, who would communicate with parishes, and the capacity to deal with parishes as well. So they're all issues that were going through our minds. We also talked about the approval process. So if a parish council wanted some work doing, how would they order it? Would they have the skills and the expertise to say, what square meterage, what type of work is going to be done? So there was kind of concerns and challenges associated with that as well. And also about the resource allocation and how we're going to schedule those works combined with the maintenance works that we deliver already. So as I've said already, that we intended to use the price list, but that has posed challenges. So we're now actually proposing a pilot in a slightly different way. Alan, I think this is where you come in. If I'll continue to do the driving on the slides, but if you could take it from here.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So so just to introduce myself, so my name's Alan Rigby. I'm the general manager for Kier, who obviously we're the new service provider for all highway maintenance activities within Somerset. So as Andrew sort of said, we were looking at the original price list on our discovery day to basically try and see the sort of how it would work and the sort of feasibility of using that and utilising it. And to be honest, we quickly came to the conclusion that it's just too complicated to try and manage it in terms of delivery on the ground, and also for obviously the parishes as well to sort of pick the items that were relevant. And just to put it in perspective, it was some sort of 3,000 lines of very engineering, technical sort of price options, some of which go into the sort of real high level detail of PSVs of stone, which is stuff that I'm sure you guys obviously wouldn't know about. Some of you maybe do, but we felt that in where it was just too complex to try and sort of manage and ensure it was user friendly, and to be honest, would probably likely cause a lot of friction between ourselves trying to sort of get to the right sort of place where we needed to be. So we to couple with that as well, I think it's fair to say with the price list, a single item in itself, which was safe, perhaps doing maybe cutting out a pothole that maybe not be as in accordance with the highway inspection manual, doesn't necessarily just mean cutting a pothole. There are a number of items that are fixed in what we call a preamble and a method of measurement that say that maybe that pothole, to do that, you have to have actually a sweeping rate, an excavation rate, and then a material extra overlaying rate. So to avoid that sort of complication and complexity, to make it manageable for all of so people got what they want, we decided to go along the route of part of that one, and then let's look at a sort of a day rate works that we could basically do plus materials. So it's just trying to simplify the process, really. As I said, it was to make it manageable and understandable for all. It removes those flashpoints that potentially could be there, and in effect, you guys and guys and girls will get what you ask for when you ask for it, and have a clear understanding of exactly what that is for. It does also remove the need to remeasure everything. And again, I can think of a number of occasions where I think maybe we'd order 100 square meters of mowing, and actually when we do it, it becomes 120, and we will have to be going to and fro to say actually it was 120, and you might say no, it's not. So again, we're trying to remove those areas where we could have those flashpoints, and just trying to make it simple, stupid, basically, for everybody involved. Simple processes that everybody can understand. And yeah, the certainty is the big one. We don't want to be coming to you guys and saying we agreed to do 100 square meters, but actually did 200 because the measure was wrong, and therefore we need an increase on the price or what have you. We want to be able to say that is the price, that is what you need. It will cost you to deliver the work that you want, and then we can draw a line under it, and that then becomes our risks, as Kia. So if we end up getting that price wrong and we've agreed that price, we'll stand by it, and we will swallow the cost that goes with that. So it gives everybody that certainty to be able to make sure we get exactly what you want, basically. Probably the next slide, Andrew. It's just coming through, I think. Here we go. So how is it going to work? So what we've done, we've set up an email address that's on the screen there, and this will come out. Obviously, I think it was part of the information letter that came out, but we'll make sure it comes to you all again. So what we're asking at this point in time is for parishes who are basically interested in uptaking this scheme and using it to register their interest to the email address on the screen there. And again, like I said, we'll get this out to everybody. Register your interest. So what we've got is a dedicated, we're calling them a community engagement manager. So we've got a dedicated resource as a person that is basically going to be meeting with the parishes, speaking with everybody on this call, to basically start the ball rolling, to gauge the interest, and start to work to basically bring up the items of work that you believe you would like to be done. So I'm aware that obviously precepts are probably upcoming, so we'll try and work as quickly as we can with everybody to sort of look at pricing stuff up and getting it in there. What I would just ask is to just bear with us. Obviously, this is a pilot. We've got absolutely no idea the uptake at this point in time. It might be huge. It might be not much at all. It is a pilot, so we'll keep talking, and I'm sure there'll be regular updates and things that we'll be releasing as we go through the whole process. But just bear with us if we do get a sudden influx and there's 200 plus requests come into the inbox. There, just give us a bit of a time to get through those and work those prices with you all. So in effect, what will happen is you'll register your interest. Our dedicated community engagement manager will come out, either speak to you on the phone or come out and visit you on site to talk over exactly what you wanted to do. If there's, his job or her role will be literally to go through, agree what we need to do as a proposal. So you might say, I want this part bench painting, I want the sign re-erecting here, I want the verge mowing there, whatever it is. We'll pull that together and figure out, right, we think that's roughly a day's work. So it's a day rate for a person, a two-man crew, which I'll come on to at the moment, to come out and complete that work, plus any material. So it might be a pot of paint or something, something bespoke that's not something we carry as normal stock. So we'll get that price, we'll agree that price with everybody, we'll get that over to you, and then basically get an invoice raised to the parishes which we can be paid against, to say, yeah, that's what we've agreed to do, and here's the work that's involved within that price. We'll then program the work. We'll get a date agreed with everybody as soon as we can get that completed. And obviously, again, depending on the uptake, that might be sooner or later, but we'll agree a date between us, between two people. And then we'll program the work and we'll complete it. So I think the key thing for us is as well, and I think Andrew touched on this earlier, is when we were looking at the various options of a sort of an automated system. You could go online and you could register your interest. We kind of, there were some technicalities and issues in terms of getting that up to speed in the space of time that we had, but also we felt having a person that people can speak to is more important, and giving it that real user friendly, people person that you can go to with any problems, any concerns, even if it's just a check on an update. Are we still on for this date? Yes, we are. You'll have a single point of contact for that, and a backup just in case anybody's off sick or ill or has annual leave, etc. So we'll give that person there, so you've got a person to speak to rather than a computer or a robot or pinging emails backwards and forwards. So that's the plan with that. Just skipping on to the next one, Andrew.
Yeah, just before we move on, just to say that email address in the top right part of the screen, that's operational, that's active now, Alan, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yep. So you can use that straight away. So you can ping an email across to there. It will go into the inbox there. It'll be picked up, and then we'll start the conversations with you all. Like I said, just bear with us in terms of the influx. There might be 200 plus requests straight off the bat. We'll just need to manage that, and we'll try and manage your expectations as best we can. Just say we've had 150 requests. We'll get to you. It might just be a couple of weeks. Just bear with us, sort of thing. There is also a phone number which I'm hoping to have for the end of the week. We'll get that sent out to everybody as well, which will be a dedicated phone line, a mobile number that you can ring somebody and say, I'm inquiring about our request for X, Y, and Z, and you can speak to them direct as well. So yeah, that'll be going out.
Okay.
And then next slide. So I think we're anticipating some questions. Sorry, go on. So we are anticipating some queries. So we're trying to answer some of the questions we know we're probably going to get in this. So do you want me to cover this one, Andrew? It's fine, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So we just put out there what can we do? I think that was the question we sort of thought we could answer here. So what we're talking about is anything that we believe is an enhanced maintenance service. This is stuff that's not covered by the main core highway maintenance contract. Now, what I will say is that person that comes out and speaks to you, who is that dedicated resource, we'll be able to look at that and say, that is definitely not part of the main core service. If it is part of the main core service, we'll be able to raise those queries through to the right member of team within Somerset and say, actually, the parish have requested this. They shouldn't be paying for that anyway because it's covered up by the main core contract. Can we get that ordered through the normal sort of channels? But where it is, and where it is, enhanced, and we've put stuff in here. So examples of what you can ask for. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. I'm 100% certain there's going to be some really off the wall sort of things that come through about, can you do this? And the answer is yes, we can. Probably just bear with us and we'll figure out, exactly what it is and how we do it, sort of thing. But in the routine and the stuff that we're expecting a lot of is pothole repairs. And when we're talking pothole repairs, we're talking about stuff that is not in accordance with the highway inspection manual. So stuff that doesn't quite meet the investigatory level. It might be just stuff that's a little bit aesthetically bad, or things like that we could potentially do. So we could look at that for you. Localized grass cutting, I think, will be a big one, along with hedge cutting. So areas of verge. It doesn't have to be in the highway either. If it's a local park ground or pocket park or whatever you've got, we can look at that for you. So verge mowing, hedge cutting, basic stuff like that. Siding and ploughing on footways and carriageways. So what we're talking about there is where you've got detritus build up in the sort of the channel or the curb lines. We can do a lot of clearance work like that, along with grip clearance. So grips, for those who may not know, is any sort of channels we need to cut into the verge to allow water drain off, etc. We can do that. Signpost and sign installation. It might be you want a specific sign renewing, putting them up or changing, whatever it is, we can do that. Sign cleaning, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of that as well. We can do sign cleaning. Timber fence repairs, so any timber fencing you've got, it might be nameplates on the entrance to the villages, it might just be a little bit of fencing, on the edge of the highway, whatever it is, we can do all that for you. And then minor aesthetic work. So what we're covering by that is, like I said, it might be a local park bench you want repainting. It might be, like I said, it might be a little bit of patching that we need to do because aesthetically it's poor and it still sort of doesn't show the village in the best of light. We can do all that for you as well. So we'll bring those together and then formulate that into a price for you. So again, minor civils, just cover that. It might be the odd curb that's chipped or a tactile paving that's broken that you think would be better done. Little minor building walls that need to be rebuilt, etc. Anything like that. If it's on the highway, in effect, we can do it. what I, like I said, again, go back to my point previously, is if there's something you think I have no idea, don't be afraid to throw that to us. You know, I've done some really pretty obscure things in my time. Even down to, my previous contract was in Birmingham. We basically revamped the clock on the front of the town hall. You know, there's pretty much there's nothing off the limits there. We'll have a look at it and we'll give you an honest, yes, we can sort that, we can do it, and this is the sort of the cost really that's going to come with that. So don't be afraid to challenge us in that regard. So the next one. So again, typical specialist services. So what we've done with the day rate, and again, we'll come on to that in a minute, is to create a team that can do most 99% of what we've got. But there are some specialist services that we need to cover off that basically is not something that we can just do straight off the bat in small quantities. So that is things like gully emptying. Obviously, you can imagine we run about 7 gully emptiers across the county. They're clearing thousands of gullies every single month. I would guess there's probably gullies that you would like to be cleaned. What we'll probably have to do with that is try and batch up some of that work together to make it more efficient for us, because sending a lorry, all the way to Minehead, say, to clean 2 gullies is really not very efficient. So we'll try and badge that up together as a route. It might be a couple of parishes could get together and say, actually, we want 30, 40 gullies doing in this parish or these 2 parishes. We can join that up and basically drive that price down for you. But that's for us to sort of manage with our community engagement manager. So they'll be having those conversations with you to say, that's a really small quantity of work. Can we wait until 3 months' time? We're actually in the next parish anyway, and we could do those 2 at that time, and actually that would bring that cost right down. It would end up being pence rather than pounds, maybe. So there'll be those conversations that will be going on. But specialist services are something that we'll have to deal with on a separate basis. So jetting is a similar one with gully emptying. If you want gully drains, jetting and clearing, we'll have to go through that separately. Ditching, drainage repairs, because of the complexity of the nature of the job, that can be quite time consuming. So we'd probably have to look at a specialist service and an individual bespoke quote for that sort of work. Lining, because again, lining is handled by a specialist contractor. We'd need to have a look at that individually. Tree surgery, again, specialist contractors. It's bespoke services that we need to make sure is done by the right people with the right training. We can't just have any old person just climbing up trees. Masonry works, it tends to be, again, a little bit like drainage repairs. They can end up going bigger and a lot bigger than they first expected, but also if they're not done by the right people, can look dreadful as well. So we need to look at that. And then traffic management for local events. If you've maybe got a village fete and you wanted to do something, in terms of TM, closing a road, we've got teams that can do that, dedicated. But again, it's bespoke for each individual event that's going on. It might be tiny, it might be massive. We'll have to look at it individually. So just to put that out there, really, in the field, is to say those specialist items will be dealt with on a separate sort of rate that we'll agree with you personally.
I feel like I've got the weight of the whole nation.
Okay, next slide, Andrew. So what is the cost and how is it priced? So for the day rate, and this is your general rule of thumb stuff, this is your hedge cutting, your strimming, your verge mowing, any, maybe the odd bit of grip clearance, etc. We've come up with a price that basically includes the following. So it's 2 operatives. It's a 7.5 ton lorry, so it's a fairly large lorry that you can have up to. So it might be you want to clear some spoils, some soil, do a huge amount of hedge cutting, etc. We'll have a decent sized lorry that will be able to take that and remove whatever you need from there. Small tools and spades, so we're talking hand tools. Anything that's a hand tool, we will include within that price. That will be, spades, shovels, sledgehammers, all that sort of stuff. That's covered, not a problem there. And in terms of mechanical tools that they will have, will be steel saws. So what we're talking about is where we can cut the tarmac, we can cut slabs with those tools. There'll be one of those, a compaction plate or a whacker plate, as it's commonly known, for any sort of potholing, patching, leveling works we need to do. Hedge cutters and strimmers will be included in there. So if you've got hedge cutting, that will be inclusive of that day rate. And traffic management, we will include anything up to 2-way lights. So if it starts to get above 2-way lights and it's what we call multi-phase signals, where you've got 3 or 4-way setups, or a full-blown road closure to do the work, or anything else like that, we will have to look at that separately, because that again goes into the realm of specialist supply chain partners that we have to bring on board, because there are, again, specialist training and permitting applications and stuff that we have to go through to basically allow us to carry out that type of work. So that would be extra. But again, what I would say is that's just a sort of rule of thumb for you. Our person that we've got coming in will be the dedicated person who will literally go through that and say that is inclusive and this is why, this is what we agreed, this is not inclusive and this is why, and that's why it's extra. So the rate at the moment we've got in there is as you see below. So again, we've put a Saturday and Sunday rate on there, depending if there was a reason for you wanted to have a Saturday or Sunday working. My guess is that majority of this work is probably going to be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But we've got rates there in case you wanted it for whatever reason to do that on a weekend. So specialist services, just to cover that again, just to be really clear with it, it's materials or specialist plant. So if it might be that you want to remove a bund somewhere and you want to dig a load of soil out, if we need an excavator to do that because of the quantity, that cost will be charged that cost. So it will be whatever it is, £80 for a day for a mini digger, and that will be charged at cost plus a small fee, which I'll come on to in a second, which is basically covers off our insurance and things. But that will be extra on top of the day rate. So we'll say effectively you've got 2 men, but actually it's not included within the plant list that they've got there. We actually need a mini digger to do this job. That mini digger is an extra £80 on top of that price list. But again, that'll all be done in advance and with each of the parishes that are obviously talking to us to say this is the cost and this is where it is and this is why. And then again, specialist contractor work. So again, it might be you want a day rate for somebody doing some hedge cutting, that's fine. But then you want some gullies cleaning, we'll get you the best price we can and try and sort of work with you to say, again, do the gully emptying in 2 months' time when we're actually in the parish anyway, and then it becomes much cheaper for you. We can get you a gully emptier here today or tomorrow, but we would have to pull that off the rounds, and that is quite expensive. So we'll work with you to get the best option for you, at that time, to go in there. So one question I was anticipating and I've put in there is, why would we have to charge a fee on the specialist service side of things? And the reason is, in effect, it covers our insurances and additional project management costs. So we have to have insurance for every £1 that we spend within the business. That just covers that off in terms of those extra overheads that we have to cover. It's not huge amounts. It's 8%. So it basically, I'm guessing it's going to be relatively small amounts of this specialist service that we'll actually do, but it's just to manage expectations and that, and from the onset really to say that is why we do it and why we have to cover that extra cost there. But again, we will drive that price to the lowest that we possibly can for you wherever we can. One other thing which I've not put in here, which I thought was probably best to cover, is I anticipate there's going to be some queries basically saying, well, can we have a half-day rate? The answer is yes, we can. What I would ask though as parishes is basically, you will all know each other, neighbouring parishes, I'm sure you'll be talking. Help us if we can by getting together as a team and saying, actually, we don't want a full day, we only want half a day to do X, Y, and Z. But the neighbouring parish want that as well. Try and combine those requests and queries together. We will do that where we can. So if people aren't sort of talking to one another, we can try and do that and say, actually, we're in street tomorrow. We can do Glastonbury Parish, on the same day. So we'll save that, and you can have the half day. But what I would ask is, as you will know each other, just to try and join them up where best you can. But yeah, so don't be afraid to sort of test the boundaries of this rate. If there's a way of working it, if you want 4 parishes together and you only want a little bit each, a couple of hours, again, we can do that. It's really, the world is your oyster. Just talk to us and let us know, and talk amongst yourselves to make it work for everybody involved, basically. I think the rate in there is 8 hours a day. I've just seen a message pop up on there. It's 8 hours a day, and that would include travelling time. What I would say is we've got depots pretty much spread across the county. We've got one in Minehead, one in Dunball, one in Glastonbury, one in Yeovil, and one in Wellington. So we're pretty well spread. I wouldn't anticipate there being really any more than maybe 45 minutes travelling at most. But again, we can look at that to cover it. I think the key for me is that person being able to, because we can all look at a job and say, well, I think that hedge cutting is going to take half a day. I think it's going to take a day. We've got to have that agreement prior to just getting on to doing it, to save everybody's face. And what I will say is that we will stand by the price. If we agree something and say that is a day's work, and we both agree, and it ends up being 2, that is Keir's risk. That is for us to manage, not for you guys to expect any undue bills that come back from that. So we'll give that assurance as well. I think pretty much that covers everything I've anticipated there being questions on, but obviously we'll come back to that at the end, I think.
Thanks, Alan. That's fantastic to be walked through like that. So the pilot launch then. So we're effectively ready to roll. The email address is set up. What I'll be doing is copying this presentation into the chat box, but also including it with a letter that I'll be sending to parishes after this meeting. And that letter will really explain pretty much what we've talked about today. It will give an insight into what the proposal is, what the pilot will look like, and how the pilot will work. So you can have more information on that. The official start date, if you like, for the pilot is going to be the 2nd of September. So that will give you a week or so to digest the presentation today. And just a confirmation about the email address. That's Somerset EHM. EHM is Enhanced Highway Maintenance @kier.co.uk. It's important to reflect on why it's a pilot. Alan made a point in his part of the presentation where we, Kier, Somerset Council, we've got no insight about the level of take-up of this particular proposal. So, you know, we've put the infrastructure in place to facilitate and enable the works to be done. We're obviously discussing this with you as parishes, but we just have got no insight into what the uptake will be. There is a commitment that Kier is making in terms of providing that dedicated staff, and Somerset Council is supporting that. But ultimately, the initiative has got to prove economically viable, and we'll be testing that over the period of the pilot. We'll also be looking at the level of uptake from parishes, and that will inform the viability and also the demand over the year. And my anticipation is probably going to be quite seasonal. So the vegetation will be kind of the spring and summer. It may be additional winter gritting. It could be additional grip filling, grip bin filling, that type of stuff through the winter months. So, so we're just going to have to explore exactly what the uptake is, what the frequently asked services are going to be, and so on. So I'd be really interested to see how this works. It's a new initiative for Somerset. We've never trialled anything on this scale. We've never opened it up to all parish councils. Where we have done these small scale trials, they've been with a handful of parishes. But this is really something quite new, something quite different, and it really goes back to where I started about place shaping and enabling parish councils to actually deliver works themselves. Just move on. That brings us really neatly into the volunteer training. So, Sarah, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Can I hand the mic across to you for this part of the presentation?
Yes, thanks, Andrew. Yes. So my name's Sarah Stanistreet. I'm a project manager in the traffic management, road safety and parking services team in Somerset Council. So over the past few months, myself and the team have been developing a volunteer safety awareness training course for volunteers and skilled people to undertake some agreed types of work safely in the vicinity of the highway with the appropriate risk assessment. The volunteer course, works a safety sort of competency course to allow sort of members of the public to work within the vicinity of the highway. So that's not actually on the carriageway itself. It's sort of footways and verges. This course is eventually going to be an online course. We don't envisage that will be available till after Christmas. However, we have come up with an interim solution, and I'm developing that up now, where the course will be delivered manually, and we as Andrew said, not in all things, we don't yet understand the sort of take up that we're going to have on this course, but we're going to be delivering. We're going to be in a position to be able to manually deliver this course until it's sort of properly online. And we're currently looking at the process and the plan for delivery, and just going through some internal governance at the moment. Just to say that this course is not a substitute for Chapter 8 training. So I'll make that very clear. This really does cover what we're considering very low risk activities, It won't include things like working at height or manual handling or any traffic management measures, things like that. So you can see the pictures here just gives you a kind of an idea of the types of activities. So it'll be things like sign cleaning. It's all manual tools, using manual tools, handheld tools. We will provide, there'll be PPE provided, that sort of thing. So it'll be cutting back some vegetation, sort of clearing some weeds, a little bit of hedge cutting in terms of sort of possibly around some signs and things like that. Cleaning some gullies, some drains from weeds, so that sort of water can flow, just removing the detritus around them. Some litter picking and general cleaning and sweeping in your sort of localities. So I've also produced a handbook that will be available, and the handbook is designed just to provide some simple guidance to volunteers, and it will also show, also sort of provide information on hazards and the sort of control measures that we suggest that that we use to mitigate the risks, really. So this is all about safety. This will ensure that once somebody's taken this course, that they will have a certificate. They'll take a little quiz to, a few quizzes to ensure that they're sort of competent and understand the behaviours we expect from them when they're out on the network doing some work for their community. So the handbook will provide information on things like sort of A&E information and where the urgent sort of care walk-in centres are, and other sort of such information. So yeah, I mean, so we're in the process of putting together the manual course, and it should be available once we've been through the, as I said, through the governance. Yeah, so I'll take any questions when we're ready to take questions, but that's just an overview of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. So I think this is the last slide. So it's basically the contact information. You'll all be used to the devolution@somerset.gov.uk email address. If there's any sort of broad questions around the pilot that needs to be directed to Somerset Council, then please use the devolution email address. If there's an early request for works, or if there's an expression of interest a parish wants to make, then send that to Kia's Community Engagement Officer. So there's 2 email addresses there, and please do feel free to give it some thought. Think about your own priorities and think about what enhancement that your community is looking for from a highways maintenance perspective.